Good evening. Today is the 21st day of August 2023, and I'm so grateful that you're joining us this evening because we are going to be talking a little bit about history tonight. As a matter of fact, 65 years worth of history, and not just to the present, but we're also looking at the future as well. I'm awfully glad that you're here this evening, so please stay tuned for tonight's Hamilton Report. Well, we set some new records this weekend in Oklahoma as far as the heat is concerned. Yes, I know it's always hot in August in Oklahoma, but this summer seems to really be really treacherous. But we have to remember our friends in California and certainly in Hawaii for what they're dealing with right now. Natural disasters that have lost not only so many lives, but people's lives of the survivors are really just tattered and torn apart with no place to live, so much uncertainty. So we think about our friends there, and we remember them and hold them close tonight. We're also grateful to the Biden administration for taking quick action on both of these cases, because it's important that people, regardless of wherever they are in our country, know that our government is there to stand behind them. Well, I said that we're talking about history tonight, and we are, because this weekend was the 65th anniversary of what would begin a sit-in movement. Many people have heard about sit-ins throughout the South, but you may not know that it actually began in Oklahoma City in 1958. Clara Looper, a teacher, gathered 13 of her students to walk into Katz Drugs and sit down and wait to be served. Well, they weren't served. But who is with us tonight is one of those 13 people. It's fascinating to see this group of folks and where they have gone with their lives. And I'm going to invite you to join in the conversation. But in case any of us believes that racism is something that is a long ago thing, I assure you it is not. And thanks to our friends at the Lincoln Project, we're going to take a look at the heart of the GOP and the heart of racism there.
I haven't seen one white supremacist. There's a boogeyman of white supremacy, which I don't think anyone can see.
A white nationalist is racist, Senator.
Well, that's your opinion.
If Democrats want to say that white nationalists are racist, I'm totally against that too.
Stop calling Tommy Tuberville a racist simply because he talked about having white skin and being a nationalist.
My amendment has nothing to do with whether or not colored people or black people or anybody can serve.
Diversity absolutely means anti-white.
Chick-fil-A, I mean, I'm hesitant to make a fried chicken joke, but they sell fried chicken. I don't know how much more inclusive we can get here.
The State Board of Education just approved new rules for how to teach Black history in public schools.
How slaves developed skills, which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit.
This is well documented among historians. This is historical fact that slaves did develop skills while they were enslaved.
They're probably going to show some of the folks that eventually parlayed, being a blacksmith into doing things later in life.
Right? I mean, you compare black guys to black guys, women to other women. You can't compare Soros to another Jewish guy.
The Soros-backed prosecutors. Soros DA.
Soros prosecutor.
His master, George Soros.
Mr. Soros.
George Soros.
Soros-funded DAs.
You sit down and think about all the anti-Semitism, so-called, not real, so-called.
You had to survive in a concentration camp by having skills. You had to be useful.
The people who are opposed to me are Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese.
This guy has a right to say whatever he wants to say, and it's not anymore, if you don't agree with me, you can't say it. That is not America.
Oh, of course the Jews run Hollywood.
unless you're thinking that that is some long ago thing, all of those clips were from this year. It is my pleasure to welcome now one of the 13 students who went into Katz's Drug with Clara Luper and asked to be served. They were not served. I wish I could read you her whole biography, but I'm afraid it would take 2 shows just to get through that. So we'll suffice it to say that she is an educator. She's an activist. She's an advocate. She's an actress, and she's an author. She's also a mom and a grandmother and a great friend to many. It's my pleasure to welcome this evening to the Hamilton Report, Dr. Gwendolyn Fuller Mukes. Good evening, Gwen. How are you, darling?
Good evening. I was doing okay until I saw those clips.
You know,
those
and my
are sad.
And the reason I showed that is because that's not from 1958 or 65 or 84. That's from this year.
And that is sad. You would have thought that America would have been further along than that. But it's because they don't know their history. They don't know our history. And it's one-sided. And if they could just walk a mile, just a block in someone's shoes, they would understand.
You know, this is, I've had this conversation on this broadcast before about the talk that Black parents have to have with their sons and daughters that white parents, it never enters their thinking.
Oh, yeah.
I have Black nieces and nephews and white nieces and nephews, but it's the Black ones, even in their 40s, that I say, be careful out there. Watch your step. Watch what you do. And I love these people. And it infuriates me that I still have to think that way. And yet here we are. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, as Mrs. Luper said, and as she encouraged us to show love, because Clara Luper, Mrs. Luper, and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. both agreed that love is stronger than hate. And if we can show love, maybe some of that love will just penetrate through. I'm trying to think of the name of this movie where in North Carolina, there was this Klansman, and there was also this Black activist. And they eventually got along because she showed him love by helping his son out in a hospital. And so, we've got to show love, but sometimes that can be overwhelming when you're trying to show love and they're just striking back with ignorant responses and hatred. But we still smile, but it's difficult at times.
Yes, it is. It really is. I'd like for you to take everything that you just said about where we are now and reposition that back to a young woman, a girl really, in 1958, what it was like for you and the other students to walk into that drugstore that day.
We weren't afraid at all because we were all friends. And if we had not been friends before, we became a family. We were friends. So we stuck together, solidarity. Even when the white folks would spit on us or try to knock us off the benches, we prevailed and we were very polite. We were taught to always be polite. I do want to mention this here. After Katz Drugstore decided after our 3rd day there that they would make it accessible for us to eat at the lunch counter, we marched on to another store, Five and Dime store, and then we went on to John A. Brown's department store.
I remember John A. Brown's downtown.
Oh, yeah, that was one of my favorite stores. And I remember our parents cut up their credit cards. And I think my mother mailed hers back to John A. Brown's. And eventually, Mrs. Brown and Mrs. Looper hugged each other. And we were able to eat at John A. Brown's. But it was a hard nut to crack.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're talking about downtown Oklahoma City, and that's when, frankly, Oklahoma City had a vibrant downtown. There were enormous movie theaters. There was great shopping. The bus service from anywhere in the city downtown was terrific. And yet, it's not been that long ago when Black people were not welcome.
Oh, no, we were not welcomed. We were not welcome in the movie theaters. We had to sit upstairs in the balcony. We were not welcome at all. And I just could not understand why they would treat us as though we were second-class citizens. That bothered me, even when I was 5 years old. And that's why I wrote the book. I wanted to pass on my memories to my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, and beyond. Because at my age, I'm losing some of my memories. And I want to make certain that I get everything down before I get older and forget completely.
Well, that's a tremendous gift and a legacy. I want to talk more extensively about the book in a few minutes. But what strikes me as just incredibly fascinating is all 13 of you have gone on to be leaders in your own right. You went from following the leader to becoming true civil rights leaders and leaders in your own professions. And this is a list of who's who, folks, really. And I was talking with Jakia Harrison over the weekend. She's our president of our Young Dems group. Mm-hmm. And she said, I want to be like any one of them. And I told her that you would be on the show tonight. And she sent me a note.
I met her yesterday.
I met her yesterday. So she's tuning in tonight. But how do you think it is that all of you not just lived through that experience, because that, frankly, that was a beginning, but then you would see the segregation in schools. You would still see all of the disparity. It wasn't until the 1970s that a Black man, and I'm saying man here on purpose, could own property inside the Edmond city limits.
Well, I didn't know that.
70s.
I did not know that.
How did you all let's speak specifically about you. How did you navigate through the prejudices that were heaped up on you? I mean, you have a PhD. You have reinvented yourself over and over, and each time is more exciting than the time before. What has been your driver all of these years?
In our family, I was expected to go to college because all of my uncles and my one aunt went to college. My grandparents had 160 acres, Route 2, Box 60, Fallas, Oklahoma, which is about 18 miles east of Guthrie, Oklahoma.
Okay.
It was expected. They expected their children, their 7 children, to go to college. When white folks and colored folks said, oh, no, they don't need to be in college. They need to be out there in the fields helping you pick cotton, helping you around the farm. And my grandparents said, no, they are going to have to go to college. So it trickled down to my generation where it was expected that we would go to college. And with 2 people, my uncles had two of my uncles had their PhDs, and one uncle was the dean of agriculture at Florida A&M University. The other one, that Alexandra is named after, Uncle AJ. He was professor of political science at Morgan State College. So it was an expectation that my parents had for me. And I have passed that on to my children, and they are passing it on to their children. But I also realized with Mrs. Looper, I learned a lot from Mrs. Looper. She had lessons, school every Saturday for us. My mother took me over there. We had to learn how to speak in front of white people. I was intimidated by white people. We couldn't say, We had to formulate our thoughts ahead of time. And if we were tempted to say, we had to pause. She taught us how to get on the bus, put the money in, and sit up front. To this very day, I do not sit in the back of a classroom. And by the way, I could become a professional student. I love school. I love learning. If I were to get paid for attending school, I would just be rich mentally, and I would love it. I would be in hog heaven. I would.
Well,
But
clearly you have imparted that to students in many states, because your PhD is in curriculum development, correct?
Yes, it is.
So,
And
I mean, you clearly have a love of learning, not just yourself, but others as well, teaching others to learn and to love to learn.
yes.
Let me ask you, is that how you have been able to just, it's kind of like a rose, frankly. It starts as a bud and then it opens into its fullness. And what made you come from Oklahoma? I mean, you had a very comfortable life here.
Oh, yeah.
And you said, I'm going to move to LA.
I like
What was
challenges.
that about?
I like challenges. And I decided, well, since my daughter and son-in-law, you notice I did not say son-in-law. He is my son-in-law, love. I was here by myself. And I thought, I've always wanted to go to California to act. And I just decided one day that I would go. My oldest son lives in Palmdale, California. He flew here to help me drive out there. And the rest is history. I've had more fun than ever after having taught for 52 years. I thought it was time for me to enjoy myself and do the things that I wanted to do. In my classroom was my stage. And I could just act out different characters. And I taught my students about Black history. Harriet Tubman. A lot of them had never heard of Harriet Tubman. Their parents had never heard of Harriet Tubman, just a few. And so I dressed up in character. Now, I learned a lesson not to ever try to portray Dr. George Washington Carver. The kids just hooped and hollered. I had a stocking cap over my hair. So I said, never will I try to impersonate. But they got the point. And I wanted them to see that history is fun. I hated history growing up. I didn't learn that much about history, especially a required course, Oklahoma history. That was the Oklahoma history was politically and educationally, what do I want to say? Sabotage. They did not want us to know the truth. I didn't know about how Jim Crow arrived in Oklahoma City until I started doing my research. You've got to study. You've got to learn the history. History is there. You've got to search it out. In December 18th, 1907, Senate Bill number 1.
The very first bill in our legislature.
The very first bill. And I never learned that until I was much older. I never learned about the Tulsa riot until my dad told me, and I was in my 50s.
Well, I was in my 40s when I learned about it, and I didn't even live in Oklahoma then. I like you, I was a product of Oklahoma public schools, and the curriculum for our Oklahoma history was so thin that it only took one semester, and that was, they figured, enough.
Now I can tell you this here: Oklahoma, when the wind comes sweeping down the plains. I knew about that.
Yeah, and the land run that was romanticized.
Yes.
Well, how old were you, if I could ask, when you picked up and you moved to LA?
I was, let me see here. I've been out in LA for 6 years. So I was 74 years, but 74 years old.
Okay, I want to underscore something. You mentioned that your daughter and your son-in-law were there, but you didn't say, I want to go be near them. You said, I'm moving to California to act.
Oh, yes.
You made a total life change at that point in your life. And so how is that working out for you?
It's working out great. I'm having fun, Scott. And let me put a plug in for 7-Eleven. I'm in the commercial. There are 4 old ladies, 2 African-American ladies and 2 white ladies. And we're walking through this casino holding our cherry red Slurpee cups. And we're just having a good time. Life is short. And my philosophy is make the best of it. Have fun. God has blessed each one of us to start out with gratitude. I'm very gracious and I'm grateful to God for every day. Although I may not say it to him, I am grateful for every day. And I try to make the best out of every day. Even if someone were to make me angry, hey, that's on you. I can tell when someone is not happy, when they don't have a personal happiness in their lives. It's visible.
If you recall, you and I first met at church.
We did. I have loved you ever since then, Scott.
It's been thrilling for me to see you just living dreams that I don't know if you've always had them or they've just matured, but to see where you are now, I mean, national commercials. Come on, that's a big deal.
Well, I tell you what, you can go on YouTube and you can look for the 2020 Super Bowl, and I'm in the NFL commercial, and that was a load of fun. Just wonderful.
You say it's a load of fun. I would have called that the biggest opportunity of my life. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
So teaching wasn't enough. Acting wasn't enough. Being a mother and grandmother wasn't enough. You said, I'm going to write a kid's book.
That's right.
And your book is called Gwen Didn't Care.
Gwen Didn't Care.
Now read us the subtitle. A true story.
A true tale of the silly, ridiculous, unjust, unfair, unfortunate laws of Jim Crow.
I'm gonna tell you something. just that alone is gutsy. One of our viewers, Alicia Kelly Sullivan, said Florida needs her stat. They absolutely do. But sadly, with the book title like that, you ain't getting in nobody's library in Florida.
Oh no, I know, and I'm already prepared for that.
Okay, but tell us about the book.
It is a book about. I was 5 years old in 1948, and I wanted to go to the zoo. And I didn't know that zoos were just one day a week. I was accustomed to going to the Guthrie County Fair one day a week. And I think I only went to that fair one time. My mother took me, but it was for the experience. And I don't think I ever went back to that fair. I did attend the 89ers celebration, but oh golly, what was the question? Oh, I wanted to go to the zoo. My mom took me to the zoo, and she was telling me, you can't do this. You can't walk through the whites only. We have a gate that we can walk through. We couldn't eat in the diner. We couldn't use the restroom, the white restroom. We had to use the stinky colored restroom, which was down by the elephants. That is not in the book, but the concept is there, but not the elephants. I wanted water. And she said, no, you can't drink out of that fountain, sweetheart. You can only drink out of the fountain that says colored only. And I asked her why. And she said, because of Jim Crow. And I didn't understand the concept of Jim Crow. I said, well, who is this Jim Crow, Mama? Who is it? And she said, it's not a person, it's a thought. They don't want black and whites to be together. And I can remember, let's go a few years ahead, at Langston University, I caught the bus to Oklahoma City, and I waited for my mother to pick me up. The colored room was just ridiculous, whereas the white room was nice. It was hot in our restroom. So I knew then that I did not want to be treated like a second-class citizen. I knew that. So I wanted to memorialize all of my memories so my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, and beyond will know how fortunate they are to have the things that they have, because they are really standing on our shoulders. Mm-hmm. Just as I, in my generation, I'm standing on my ancestors' shoulders. And I just wanted to make certain that they knew what life was like. They will not find this in any history book.
But I can tell you something. I think this would be an incredible gift for white parents to give their children, to teach them. Because especially with what's happening in Oklahoma right now, where we can talk about the Tulsa Race Massacre, but we can't talk about it being race related.
That is ridiculous.
I know it. It really is. So I think that with voices like yours, and you've written this for children, but the beautiful thing about it, and we need to give a shout out to Allie Wallace, who did illustrations in the book.
My illustrator. The illustrations are fabulous.
They really are. And this is an Oklahoma-centric book. So I am just so thrilled that you're sharing this tonight, because as our
Jim
kids
Crow.
that's terrific.
And so he says,
as our kids are not being awkward is right. We're not teaching our kids in school, but parents can still teach their children the values of inclusivity and loving one another, regardless of our differences. And when
right.
You were here in my office last week, and you said we're much more alike than we are different.
Oh, heavens, yes. Look here. I had a dear friend in Wichita, Kansas, and I hope you don't mind me sharing this here.
No.
One day I said, "Are you gay?" And he said, "Yes." He said, "How did you ever guess?" I said, "I don't know. I guess my gaydar went off. I don't know." I said, "But you know what? We are both alike. We want to be happy. We have bills that we have to pay. when we are cut and we bleed. We are, and the only difference is we both want a man. That is the only, we both want a man. And so he helped me to understand. And understanding is the most important part. You can't be afraid of anyone. You have to get out there in the water and learn about different cultures. You do. And I feel empathy. I feel for those people who are not allowing their children to learn about different people. We are more alike than we are not alike. We are Scott.
Well, that's such a beautiful sentiment, and that's what guides my life. And my life is richer because of people like you, people who I find inspiration from, and I grow, and people who I can admire just for who they are, not necessarily for what they've done, but by the character that they possess. And with you, it's a little different because it's not only everything you've done, that's part of it, but it's also who you are.
Yeah, and don't let anyone tell me I can't do something. I'll go out and do it.
I would not make that mistake with you, I promise. Now you have a book signing and reading coming up on Saturday at Full Circle Bookstore.
Yes, I do at 3:00, and I invite your audience to come out. And I have a feeling it's going to be jam-packed because it's on a Facebook, and people have said on Facebook they're coming. Some of my students from Wichita State University that I taught, they have already ordered the book. And when I move back here to Oklahoma, and there's work to be done here in Oklahoma City, I want to go up to Wichita and do a book signing at one or two of the local bookstores. So,
well, I am so proud of you, and I cannot wait for our readers to get your book, to read it, to share it with the young people in their lives, because this is a book that clearly is not dated in any way, and it won't be 50 years from now. It will be as relevant then as it is today.
Thank you. As long as there are people, as long as there are racists out here, I'm going to continue writing.
There you go. And I will continue reading what you write. My friend, we are out of time tonight.
Are we really?
We are. This has gone by so quickly. Gwendolyn Fuller Mukes, an amazing woman who I am proud to call friend. You have my undying admiration, and I can't wait to see you on Saturday so I can get a personally signed book just from you.
Thank you, Scott, for allowing me to be on your show. I have truly enjoyed it. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to count on you coming back to see us and keeping us posted on the next chapter as you write it.
Okay, very good. I hope that, well, I've already started on my second book.
I'm not surprised. Well, you better go take a nap and get ready for Saturday.
Okay. Thanks a lot. I appreciate everything.
Thank you.
And bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Friends, I got to tell you, this has been such a joy for me. Dr. Mukes is just an amazing person, and I'm grateful that she's in my life, and I'm grateful that you had a chance to meet her this evening. And whether or not you're able to make it out to her book signing on Saturday, I hope you are. But if you're not, it's also available on Amazon, and it's simply called Gwen Didn't Care. I hope that you'll check it out and see the value of her words, her wisdom, and her sense of humor. Well, we are way past time, but I need to say before we go how very much I appreciate the viewers of this broadcast. This is my happiest time of the week when I get to spend some time with you. And I hope that you find value in what this program offers, but also what the Oklahoma Democratic Party provides. We do so much every day to advance what's good and right for all Oklahomans. And I hope that you'll want to support us with a gift of $25 a month, $10 a month, whatever you can afford. We are grateful. And you can do that at okdemocrats.org/donate. Next Monday night, I'm thrilled about this topic because it's not just the topic. In fact, we're going to have a roundtable discussion with a number of young people, young Democrats particularly. Some of them are very involved in the party, in politics. Some of them are not. But they all have hopes and dreams for the future of this country and how they fit into that. And it promises to be a very exciting discussion. And please plan on tuning in next week. Until then, stay cool, take really good care of yourselves and those that you love. And from all of us at the Oklahoma Democratic Party, I'm Scott J. Hamilton saying thank you and good night.